Hello, and welcome to this episode of Women in Engineering, Success Stories from STEM Professionals. Today, I'm thrilled to sit down with Tamara McLemore, PMP, PMI-ACP, and Executive Consultant, Certified Project Management Professional, PMP instructor, and founder of Tamara McLemore Enterprises, about the transformative power of the PMP certification, debunking common myths surrounding it, and the accelerated paths to achieving it. I am your host, Tiffany Teachy, a senior mechanical engineer, STEM advocate, TEDx International speaker, and an internationally recognized author of children's books, including What Can I Be? STEM Careers from A to Z, and STEM Crew Kids Adventures series. I also host the Read It Right radio show on WDRB Media, owner of Thriving Edge Publishing, and owner publishing consultant of Inspired Authors Publishing. And with that, let's jump right into today's episode. Today, I have with me Tamara McLemore. Welcome, Tamara, to the Women in Engineering podcast.
Thank you, Tiffany, for having me. I'm super excited to be on today.
Yes. Well, let's go ahead into it. Can you start by telling us a bit about yourself and your career journey from being a project manager to becoming the founder and chief impact officer of Tamara McLemore Enterprises?
Well, Tiffany, it is a little bit of a story. If I was to ask you what my undergrad major was in college, you would not even know. If it was $1 million on the table, you wouldn't get it unless you looked it up on LinkedIn. So, Tiffany, I have a journalism degree. That's right. I have a mass comm degree. I went to school. I wanted to be a sports reporter. However, when I graduated back then, I don't want to date myself, but back then, I didn't know how much I was going to be making when I got out of school, and I did not want to be broke and poor anymore. So my aunt at the time worked for MCI WorldCom, so I just dated myself because a lot of people don't even know what MCI WorldCom is. And she was like, you need to get in tech. She was like, you don't know anything. Get into tech. That is up and coming. And that's exactly what I did. I started with Ericsson, helping them managing the switches and the cell sites for the old mom, Pa Bell South, Houston Cellular. And so that's how I started my technology career. And I just learned from the engineers. When they would go to site, I would be at the site when the switches delivered. That was my job. And so I learned project management, and I was hungry. I was eager. And that's how I got into technology.
Wow, I love that story. I mean, you think you're one thing and then you turn it into another. So it's always great when you tell your journey and stuff as far as where you got to where you are today. So thank you for sharing that. Let's go into the whole project management side of things. You've dedicated a significant part of your career to empowering women to earn their PMP, which is, break down those acronyms of certification. So the PMP certification, what drives your passion for helping women in these specific areas with the PMP certification?
So Tiffany, I have to say it's a selfish reason. It started off being selfish because I was lonely. I was really, really lonely in technology. If it was infrastructure, meaning if I was on the construction site, if I was at a facility, if I was at a warehouse, I would be the only female. And I mean black, white, short, tall. I was the whole, everybody's female. And then when I did infrastructure, application, SAP and different type of software application, it's still very few women in the industry. And I'm talking about in 2018, 19, I'm like, wow, 20 years later, still not a lot of women. And one thing that I found out is having that PMP certification. It gives you it gives you the confidence, it gives you your swagger. And that's what was missing. That's what I found out that was missing from women and why they weren't actually at the site in management, running those projects and not in front of the customer. So when I realized that the PMP certification separated women from doing these major high profile projects, I was like, I got to get more women certified. Yes, the test is hard. Yes, I failed not once, but twice. It took me 3 times to pass it, but it was worth it. And so what I have done is I use my secret sauce that I learned from going back and forth to DC, from PMI chapter here in Atlanta, and my husband had to give me a tutor. And I have created my secret sauce to help women pass not in 5, 6, 7, 8 months, but in 30 days or less. So that is how my company started.
Wow, I love it. I mean, the impact that you said, okay, you want to see more of it as far as definitely with women in it. And as we elaborate on that, why should women engineers consider getting their PMP certification, and how can it impact their career trajectory?
So Tiffany, I feel weird saying this on camera, but I would say this early in my 20s, and I would ask management, why am I moving up so quickly? Tiffany, I was getting promotions every 6 months for years. And I was like, why am I getting promoted? You have the engineers that have gone to engineering school. You know, they've gone to some of the top schools. Some of them are PEs, you know, capacity engineers, developers, mechanical, civil, you name it. I work with those engineers, but I'm getting all the promotions. And so what management told me is that I have other skills that they don't have, the softer skills, the communication skills. And so the reverse imposter syndrome kicked in. I'm like, I got to get these women engineers certified, confident in the how can I say this, the terminology and to talk to the key stakeholders, to talk to the VPs. Because guess what? The engineers are doing all the work. Let's be very clear. They're doing all the work. And what I found in my 20s was I was getting the reports, the updates, and presenting it. And I'm making all the money and the promotions. And Tiffany, that just didn't make sense to me when you have women sitting at the desk doing the work. So that's one of the big reasons why it is so important that engineers get their PMP certification. You're already doing the work.
You touched on it. I mean, to build those different skill levels is key. And that's what's standing out. What makes you stand out more than others? And I think you hit the spot on it. So to know that your company, your program helps with that is amazing and important, especially with the trying to move on up in the career. Now let's talk about, in your experience, what are the top 5 myths that deter candidates from pursuing their PMP certification?
The first myth is that you don't meet the requirements. Girl, it's so much information in these internet streets. First of all, an engineer meets the requirements hands down. You have a degree. It only takes 3 years of experience. Even if you don't have a degree, and let me say this, during the past recession, I could not get a job with an MBA in global technology management. And companies would tell me over and over again, someone has an associate's or went to technical school, don't have a degree. However, they have their PMP. So you do not need a degree to get this, but your ladies, your listeners, they have a degree. So 3 years of experience, they meet it. And a lot of people think that they had to have had the title of project manager to get it. That is so false. You have to have, there's certain requirements, but I have a cheat sheet for your ladies to help fill out the application. So we will get that done. The next myth is that the test is hard. But you guys are engineers. I just finished up a whole private class with design and build company. I think almost everybody in that class were PEs. That's a hard test. That's an extremely hard test. If you could do that, you could do the PMP. It may have been a while, but I have the tools to get them to the finish line. So the test is not that hard. And as a matter of fact, the new exam is easier than the old exam because it just makes sense. Let me tell you, Tiffany, the next thing that stops more people is fear that they're going to fail. So what if you fail? I failed not once, but twice. My collaborating partner, Aisha Watkins, she has Women in Project Management. She failed several times. So what? Get over it and retake it. And last but not least, the cost. Some people say it's too expensive. So you're telling me that the professional development for yourself is too expensive. Most companies will pay for it or reimburse you. So the cost is a drop in the bucket for you to move into leadership, for you to have peace at night, knowing that if your company was to lay off, you can get another job easily. And just those are the myths that are in these internet streets, Tiffany, and hopefully your listeners will understand that they qualify for their PMP certification.
I love it. I mean, those myths are out there, and thank you for squashing those myths because those can try to deter, many from trying to apply. And as you talk about applying, can you clarify who is actually eligible to apply for the PMP certification?
So you only need 3 years of work experience. And with that 3 years, you have to have managed a project from beginning to end. But when we say beginning to end, in real life, we don't always start a project at the beginning. Sometimes you get it in execution or module controlling. On my PMP application, I use a project, I want to say it was for the core engineers. I did the initiation, got the funding, and I did the planning, the requirements. And they told me to turn that project over to somebody else and start another one. But guess what? I needed those project hours, and I was able to use the initiation and planning part of the project and get my application submitted along with other projects. So you don't need the entire, let me say this again. You don't have to have done the entire project from beginning to end. That is a huge myth. You need a degree or not. And so those are only 2 requirements. If you don't have a degree, you need 5 years. If you have a degree, 3 years. That's it. The end. That's it.
Okay, you said it's just like that. Okay, I love it. I love it. And just to reiterate, and I know you've said this, you just said it, but can you just reiterate? Can you elaborate on eligibility criteria, including, once again, the amount and type of experience required, and whether a degree is necessary? I know you touched it, but let's remind them again, including the amount, the type of experience.
So if you have a degree, you need 3 years of experience. I've had people that work in call centers that have the experience. And to give you an example, we use those yearly KPIs. So the monthly KPIs and the quarterly KPIs run into a yearly KPIs. That is a project. I've had somebody that was out of school 2 years. She was only out of school 2 years. She had a degree. So Tiffany and listeners, where do you think we got that 3rd year of experience? I asked her, what did she do in undergrad? Asked her if she was Greek. I'm an AKA, she's an AKA. I'm like, girl, you did a project in undergrad. We used the volunteer work. Nobody said you had to have been paid for the work. PMI will accept volunteer work if you have done 5Ks, things like that. But guess what? Most people don't even need that. People come to me all the time with their volunteer work. I'm like, yeah. Anyway, we don't need it. It helps people feel more comfortable that they can use it. But once again, 3 years of work experience if you have a degree. If you do not have a degree, 5 years of work experience. One more thing to add to this. I speak at a conference twice a year, the Ignite conference. It is for executive admins, for executive assistants of the major companies. They have gone through my boot camp. I'm going to say that again. Admins have gone through my boot camp. They have done projects. They have put on these major events with the CEO and the C-suite. They have put on projects. And so if they have done it, you best believe an engineer has done a project.
Wow. I love the different perspectives. It's like you can't say anything about the opportunities are out there for it to take advantage of it. So thank you for giving the great examples of it. Now, what are some common misconceptions around what is a prior project leadership that candidates should be aware of? So there's some, just like you spoke on, things they might need to have prior to there that are some misconceptions to be able to apply, I guess, in that way.
So people think that you had to have had the title of project manager. I'm one of the very few people that actually have the title of project manager. But let me give you an example of a time that I didn't. When I worked for the federal government, on my business cards, on the email, they have project manager. If you go look in my HR file, it says telecom specialist. And they changed that because when we would show up to nuclear regulatory, DOD agencies, VA, you name it, we show up as a telecom specialist. They're like, nothing's wrong with our phones. Why are you here? Them not knowing we're project managers, we're IT, we can do anything low voltage. And so to the general public, I'm a project manager. In my HR file, I'm something else. So a lot of women get caught up in the name, in the title. And project management on the application, it distinctly reads, what is your title or what is your role? Your title is one thing. Your role on what you did on that project is something totally different. Totally different. So that is a huge misconception that stops a lot of people in their tracks. And let me say this, Tiffany, men don't have this problem. I'm going to say this again. If men did 20 or 30% of the work, they're going to apply for their PMP application. They're going to get approved. They're going to sit for the exam. Meanwhile, women, we're trying to get more than enough experience. I did a challenge this week, and today I was on a call with all women. And one woman was like, I told her she needed 36 months. She has an MBA. Her and other females on that call said, well, I spend time finding additional projects because I want to submit at least 4 or 5 years. I said, ma'am, it's not even possible. After you put your 3 projects, it is going to lock that part. You don't get points for extra credit. So ladies, keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Yes, I always try to do extra, but just follow the directions in there. I love it. I love it. Now, as you talk about your secret sauce, and I know we want to make sure everybody connects with you, but can you, give us a little bit of what are the top 2 secrets to success when it comes to passing the PMP exam?
Okay, one of the main things we do is we get that application approved before the boot camp. A lot of people are like, whoa, Tamara, let's go through the boot camp and see. No, ma'am, we're getting that application submitted and approved before the boot camp starts. At least I try to. The next thing in my secret sauce is we do a study schedule. So Tiffany, just like your job gives you a schedule, don't they IM you, send your email? This project needs to be complete by the end of 2024, 2025. Don't you get it done hook or crook, even the weekends? We got to treat this the same way. We put pen to paper and we map out a study schedule. And so when you have that study schedule, you can really look and say, whoa, I can really do this not in 30 days, in 2 weeks. Let me tell you, I have a client, she has twins under 5. She passed in a week. I had somebody, when she did her study schedule, we used it as an example, and it was a little aggressive for me, even for me, because she had on there a wedding, the Drake concert, and she was in Chicago. So it was the first Drake concert was last summer. She had a lot going on in that week. But what she didn't tell me is she had just resigned from her job. And so did she get it done in 4 days? Absolutely. She passed, went to the Drake concert, went to that wedding. And so if you put pen to paper, you can get it done. Last but not least, another thing that separates me from other boot camps is that we actually go through the questions. So I'm going to say that again. The boot camp is Monday through Thursday. Friday, we have to let our brain rest. I know y'all overachievers want to study on Friday. I don't allow anybody to study on Friday. But Saturday morning, we get up and get our coffee and our tea, and we actually go through the questions. And that helps you familiarize yourself with what's on the exam, how the questions are worded. Yes, it's a definition, but it's how you're going to apply it. What do you do next? So all that head space that you're thinking about how the question's going to be worded, that's done. And we do that for 2 Saturdays. And last but not least, I have everybody baseline themselves. There's no sense in starting from scratch, and nobody starts from scratch. So we understand the technology. Data is super huge right now. Data is huge. And so the data is the data is the data. So I have everybody baseline themselves, and that's what they study after the boot camp. So that's just a little bit of my secret sauce.
Love it. Thanks for sharing just a little bit of it. Teaser. It's a good teaser. So as we talk about, exercises that you might conduct, can you describe one of the exercises you conduct with your students about buying sugar at the store and how it relates to the PMP certification?
So buying sugar at the store. So this is so funny. There's something called plan versus actual. So this is when we go to Trader Joe's, my favorite store. When we go to Trader Joe's, what you plan to spend versus your actual. So if you get to the counter and you say, "Whoa, I overspend by $25," and then you go to your next store, I like to call it whole check. We know that store. It's my favorite store. If you overspend in whole check by $50, you have overspent in 2 stores. So when you go to that third store, Target, you got a decision to make. Can you go in the dollar bin? Can you go to accessories, or do you need to go just to get what you need to get? So it's the same way. If you overspend in your household in 3 stores, then you're going to have to skip that happy hour, that brunch for the end of the month. Well, guess what? Corporate, your projects, it's the same thing, Tiffany. It's the same thing. If you overspend on your project at the beginning, you have some choices. You're going to have to de-scope. You're going to have to ask your customer for more money. Or so we have some things that we can do. So I make sure that you really, really get the concept. Like, these are not new concepts. We're doing it every day. In corporate, we're just adding some zeros. That's all we do. We're just adding some zeros and some commas. So hopefully I was able to explain that really good for you.
I really think you did. I mean, I saw the steps. If you overspend, you have to evaluate and how you tied it in with the projects and work. So yes, great job. I love it. So you already showing how you go about breaking it down. And yes, that's awesome. Now, as we wrap up, what final piece of advice can you offer to our listeners, especially those engineers considering advancing their careers through additional certifications like the PMP?
I would say, thank God Nike has not trademarked this and I don't owe them any money. Just do it. That's all I have left is just do it. It is a global certification, not just here in the U.S., but every country recognizes the PMP certification. Not just every country, but every industry. I work for the federal government. I work for the airline. I work for a law firm, logistics, telecom, nonprofit, you name it. I worked in the industry, and I'm not considered a job hopper. I'm not considered an industry hopper. What they say is Tamara can go in any industry and manage a project from beginning to end. She does not need to know the industry. She will learn it, and that's what you need to understand. So if you're thinking about this PMP, ladies, gentlemen, get out of your head and just do it. Like Nike said, just do it.
Just do it. Just that simple. Just do it. I love it. Now, I want to make sure people know how to get in touch with you. And so can you share with us how people can get in touch with you to learn more about what you do?
Absolutely. So I'm definitely on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where I hang out every day. So I'm always posting and giving tips. And also, you can reach me at iwantmypmp.com. In case you didn't get that, I can be connected through iwantmypmp.com. And I have some freebies for you guys. I have a free document that helps your employer pay for your PMP exam, either pay for it up front or reimburse you. I also have a free quiz that you can take to see if this is something you really should do. And I also have a very, very basic project management class that goes into the different methodologies, waterfall and agile, just to get you started. So I have some good freebies on the website as well.
Okay. Say the website one more time.
iwantmypmp.com.
Love it. Love it. Well, Tamara, it has been a pleasure. You have dropped some gems. So thank you so much for being a great guest on the show.
Thank you, Tiffany, for having me.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you won't miss our upcoming episodes featuring interviews with inspiring women engineers, discussions about industry trends, and much more. Go to womeninengineeringpodcast.com, where you will find a summary of the key points discussed in today's episode, as well as links to any of the resources, websites, or books mentioned during this episode. Until next time, may your engineering endeavors be as remarkable as the women whose stories we're sharing. Stay curious, keep innovating, and engineer a better future.